Welcome to How to Lose Your Desire for Junk Food in Just 10 Minutes through leveraging your brain's natural repulsion system. What if there were a way that you could lose all desire for any of those unhealthy foods that you love and crave that you just can't resist? How often have you woken up telling yourself, today is the day I start on my diet again? And for a while, everything is going well until the thoughts come. Maybe it's that familiar 3 p.m. afternoon slump where you just need a little something to get you through the day. Or maybe they come after dinner, when the house grows quiet and the day is finally winding down. And they're not there because you're hungry, but because something inside of you keeps pulling your attention back to food. At first, it's subtle, just a passing thought. Maybe I'll have a little something. You try to ignore it, keep yourself busy, you answer emails, fold laundry, scroll on your phone, you even drink another glass of water as you tell yourself, it'll pass. But it doesn't. The thoughts keep coming back, quietly circling in the background of your mind, interrupting your focus, that is, until they move to the front of your mind, where they begin to wear you down. And the more you resist them, the louder they become. The sugary, salty, highly processed snack foods that seem to call your name until resisting them feels harder than simply giving in. And then it happens. It's as if something inside you is pulling you towards the kitchen. You tell yourself, I'll just have one bite. But one becomes two, and two becomes three. And before you know it, you've eaten far more than you planned. And for a few brief moments of deliciousness, the noise in your mind finally goes away and the battle is over. That is, until another feeling replaces that. Frustration, guilt, disappointment. You wonder why this keeps happening. You question your willpower, but after the guilt and shame settle in, you promise yourself once again that tomorrow will be different. That is, until the food noise starts all over again. Does this sound familiar? Because if it does, you're not alone. But what if this whole time you've been fighting against yourself when you could be working with yourself? You see, those unconscious patterns running quietly in the background of your mind, the ones your brain learned years ago, are on autopilot and will continue to have you running on the hamster wheel of hope until you fall into hopelessness. And once you understand that, you don't have to fight it anymore. Because what the brain has learned, the brain can unlearn. Those old patterns can be replaced with new habits that nourish your body, calm your mind, and support the life you truly want to live. I'll be sharing with you just how you can do that through a technique I developed called the Didi Verg Food Repulsion Reset that will cause you to lose all your desire for the unhealthy foods of your choice in as little as 10 minutes. And this technique is something your brain does for you in nature automatically. We're just going to use it to our advantage. My food repulsion reset works because it leverages one of the brain's oldest protective instincts, the power of survival. My food repulsion reset works because it leverages one of the brain's oldest protective instincts, the power of survival. The power of food repulsion lies in working with your biology, not against it, through activating the brain's natural disgust and survival response. I'll show you how you can interrupt cravings at their source and lose the desire for foods that you no longer want to eat, and in turn find it easier to make healthier food choices that align with the health and weight loss goals that you've set out for yourself. You'll often hear me talk about using mind power, not willpower. And that's because our cravings and our desires for food are being activated from our unconscious, meaning they're pre-programmed responses in your brain running on autopilot out of your awareness. And this is why they're very difficult to change at the conscious level. This is why it's easier to work with your biology rather than against it. So instead of relying on willpower, my food repulsion reset taps into one of the brain's oldest instincts, the instinct to create an aversion to what it feels is dangerous and harmful to our survival because it's poisonous if you eat it. By activating the brain's natural survival instinct, we interrupt cravings at their source, and this helps you to lose all desire for those unhealthy foods that cause you to gain weight and eliminates them from your life for once and for all. What you will find when you go through my food repulsion reset is that those foods that once called out to you, that you fantasized about for your afternoon break, or when you finally started to wind down at the night, will have lost their emotional pull. And this makes it so much easier for you to make healthier food choices and emotional choices for how you want to handle the moment moving forwards. I'd like to share with you the evolution of my methods and just how they changed my life, making it easier for me to take my mind off the foods that called out to me because I was simply addicted to them and I just couldn't resist them. But I'd like to ask you a question first. How many of you have eaten something that's given you food poisoning? And after that, how likely were you to eat that food again? So let me tell you how it first started with me. I was 28 years old, and having been on diets for my entire life where I starved and binged and did the whole gain weight, lose weight thing, I'd completely destroyed my metabolism. I found myself pre-diabetic and very worried about it. I had leptin resistance, which means I felt hungry no matter what I ate, when I ate, and how much I ate. My hunger signal was locked on. And one day when I really started to think about the current predicament I found myself in, I got really, really scared. I mean, to the point where I was envisioning putting diabetes needles in my stomach every morning and how it would shorten my life. And then I started to think about what got me there. And do you know what my mind brought up? The Danishes. I don't know why it chose those Danishes, but all of a sudden I started to envision the Danishes that I used to love. You know, the ones in the supermarket, they're like round and kind of a pastry formed like this with jam in the middle and all kinds of white icing on top. I started envisioning the Danish on one hand, and then I felt the fear and the dread and my life coming to an early end on the other hand. And guess what? Never wanted a Danish again. It was just that easy. And people would say to me at events, "Oh, Didi, how do you resist? How do you resist?" And the question used to perplex me all the time because I kept thinking to myself, what do they mean resist? If they only understood what eating that Danish meant to me, my life, my future, then they'd know it had nothing to do with resistance. I just didn't want it. So likewise, I'll tell you another story where I actually poisoned myself, but this time with alcohol. I was holding an event and I was the bartender for the event, and the featured drink was my favorite drink, mojitos. And I was serving everybody mojitos, mojitos, mojitos. And I found myself taking quite a few sips of the extra mojito left over every time I'd serve one. So that by the time that party was getting into full thrust, I was ridiculously drunk. And I mean, I was so drunk to the point where the room was spinning, I was nauseous, I had to lean against the wall to hold myself up. And as a result of that, I had to leave my own event early because I just couldn't stomach it. I knew I was going to throw up in front of anybody at any moment, and it was embarrassing. And by the time I got home, the room was spinning for hours on end. My stomach was turning. But the shame, a 40-year-old woman being that pathetically drunk that she had to disappear from her own event, that was it. Next day, woke up completely rough. Guess what? Never touched a mojito again. You could put them in front of me. You could line them up for free. Zero desire. So again, we know this mechanism works. Now, for those of you who are interested in the science behind how food repulsion works, here's what happens in your brain that makes us never want to touch that food again. There are 3 parts of your brain involved in creating an aversion to food: your amygdala, which is commonly known as the emotional center of the brain, the hippocampus, that stores the details of the food poisoning, and the insula, which creates the feeling of disgust. Getting poisoned by food is one of the strongest and fastest forms of learning humans and animals can possess. Normally, the brain needs repeated experiences to learn something, but with food poisoning, one experience is all you need, and that experience can last a lifetime. When you eat something poisonous or rotten, your brain naturally creates a powerful association through linking that food to danger, only beneath the surface of your brain in your unconscious. It says, "That food almost poisoned me. Never, ever, ever, ever eat it again." This is a biological imperative that developed to keep us alive. If you want to get down to the specifics in the brain, our amygdala is the part of our brain that stores and processes our emotional memories and the events that have emotional significance. So as the food poisoning is occurring, it records intense nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, fear, and disgust. So the next time you see, smell, or even think about that food, the amygdala will have a repulsive reaction before you consciously know how you feel. This is why people after food poisoning say things like, "I can't even look at shrimp anymore." They are simply repulsed by it. With me in the mojito, I could look at it, I could see the beautiful presentation of the drink that I used to love, but all of my feelings and desires for it were completely blunted. Now, the hippocampus is the part of the brain that remembers the details of the food poisoning. Things like the restaurant, the smell, the flavor, the texture of the food, and even who you were with. Sometimes people not only avoid the food, but also find themselves repelled by the restaurant, or in some cases, even the music that was playing. That is how detailed your brain is in storing information out of your awareness. And finally, the part of your brain that creates the actual disgust is called the insula. The next time you encounter that food that made you sick, the insula will produce sensations like nausea, loss of appetite, stomach tightening, and even a feeling of revulsion. Even though the food is perfectly safe, the brain from this point forward treats it as if it's dangerous. And it's not just your brain that takes part in the aversion from food. Our nervous system will also prepare for the perceived danger by giving you a stress response at the thought of eating the food that includes dry mouth, stomach queasiness, sweating, increased heart rate, and a turning sensation in your stomach. But here is what happens that turns us off of poison food psychologically. Foods we enjoy normally activate the brain's reward pathways, particularly those involving dopamine. After food poisoning, the reward brain normally expects is replaced with an expectation of sickness. So the brain rewrites the expectation from ice cream equals pleasure to ice cream makes me sick. That shift reduces the food appeal, so you never want it again. As I mentioned earlier, this learning is unusually strong, so that the appeal of the food is gone, so it can prevent another poisoning in the future. So can food aversion happen even if that food actually wasn't the cause? The answer to that question is yes. Here is where we come in and use your brain's natural response to food poisoning to get you to lose all desire to the unhealthy foods you want to let go of. Here's how the different pieces fit together. If a person vividly imagines an emotionally threatening future, the amygdala will become active as though it were actually living the real situation, just like in the case with me and the Danish and the dread for my life. We then pair the emotionally threatening future with the craving, and this rewrites your brain's old pattern, much like how it happens with the food poisoning. We call this collapsing the craving. Once the craving has been collapsed, the brain no longer expects the good feelings that came along with eating that food. So as a result, you no longer crave it, mostly because it's lost its emotional significance. So now it looks like this. Before, chocolate equaled comfort and happiness. After, chocolate equals a feeling of dread, loss of health, no energy, and becoming the worst version of myself with a future I just don't want. In other words, the repulsion reset works by using emotionally vivid imagery to help the brain form a new association between unhealthy foods and the not so pleasant future consequences of continuing the habit. As a result, the craving and the good feeling that you got from eating those unhealthy foods is eliminated. So cravings disappear and healthier food choices become easier, making change feel natural rather than forced. So what if the reason you keep losing the battle with food isn't because you lack willpower, but because your brain is running an unconscious pattern that is currently beneath your level of control? If you could teach your brain to stop seeing the foods you love and crave as a source of comfort and pleasure, and instead see them as something you simply don't want anymore, please comment reset. Because when you decide it's time to change, help is on its way.